Hi everybody, welcome back to the channel once again. My name is Peter, and if you've never been here before, this is Thailand Bound. I speak about all things Thailand. Right, today I'm very lucky. I've got an author of a book that I'm going to interview today. You might have heard me talk about this book before. It's called Get Me Out of Here, and the author is Andrew Hammond. Andrew is here today. He travelled around the world for about 3 years when his father died. He has some interesting stories to share with us. I thought I'd bring him on. He's very happily agreed to come on this interview. So I'm not going to waste any time. Let's bring Andrew straight in and we'll ask him about that trip.
สวัสดีค่ะ
Hi Andrew, thank you for joining me on my video today. It's great to have you here. I have read your book. For guys, if you don't know Andrew, he's a world traveller. He's written a couple of books, and the book we're going to be talking about today, and I'm getting no backhanders, no affiliations, no checks in the post, anything like that. It's just a great book. I've read it. There it is. There's a cover. It's called Get Me Out of Here. Thanks for joining me, Andrew. It was an interesting book. Any more plans on traveling?
Yes, I'm looking to travel. I was going to, because of the Thailand pass scenario, I was going to look maybe the 1st of July. So they've asked me to stay on at work to the end of August. So I'll stay to the end of August and then head off to Southeast Asia towards the end of August, early September.
Andrew, I noticed when I read your book with great fascination, I noticed that you chose to stay in hostels rather than budget hotels. The obvious question would be why. The obvious answer would be because they were cheap. But was there any other reasons? Why did you decide to stay in hostels that are shared? You know, you share a room with multiple people rather than perhaps staying in a budget hotel where you get your privacy. What was the reason for that other than saving money?
Well, it's because you get to meet other backpackers and other travellers from all over the world, different backgrounds, get different nationalities. You all mix together and you can find out where the good places to go, where to avoid, good places to eat. You can also have your own private room in the hostel. There's no problem with that. It's probably about 3 times the price of a dormitory, but you can still have your own privacy. Whereas staying in a budget hotel or any other hotel, you don't get that sort of information, where they just send you to maybe tourist areas. They think you're a tourist. Whereas backpackers are different. They want to go to somewhere where it's off the beaten track, so to speak.
And did you, on your travels, I mean, you stayed in these hostels all the time. Was there any negative things that happened to you? Did anything, reading the book, it all sounded great fun. And like you said, one thing I picked up from the book, which I probably missed out on when I was traveling around, was you did get to meet some great people and you actually became friends with people in these hostels and you went out drinking with some of these people, which is real nice if you're traveling on your own, making friends like that. But did you ever have any sort of bad experiences while you were staying in these hostels?
Yes, the only bad experience that comes to mind is the one in Bangkok.
Really?
Called the hostel. Yes, the hostel mix on a road parallel right behind Koh San Road.
Okay.
And when I was trying to find this hostel, I was walking up and down the street. I couldn't find it. And then there was this Indian guy standing outside trying to sell suits. And I'm a big backpack on, sweating buckets. It was like 40 degrees Celsius then at the time.
Yeah, sure.
And he said, would you like to buy a suit? I said, well, do I look like I need a suit? So the hostel was right behind him. So I went up these stairs through the clothing alley. And I walked up these stairs all the way in. And it only dawned on me after I went to reception. I thought, well, where's the front door? There's no front door to this hostel. So anyone from the street can walk in. An alarm bell started ringing. So I thought, I'll book in here for 3 nights and see how it goes. Anyway, on the second night, I'm in bed about 1 o'clock in the morning. There wasn't even any electronic key or key to get into the dormitory room. Anyone could just come in and go as they like. And at 1 o'clock, this Middle Eastern guy burst into the room and dived under me. I've got my phone underneath my pillow, but it's on charge. He said, I need a charger. I said, get out of it. Sort of pushed him out. He went up to the top bunk, done the same to the guy up there, which in return, the guy kicked him in the face. But after that, he scarpered. And all the other hostel guests had come out of their rooms because they'd had exactly the same thing happen to them. So that was the only bad experience of sort of a robbery in progress, basically.
But and it just happened to happen in Bangkok. Of all places, it was Bangkok. You know, the problem is, Andrew, I'm sure you're aware of this, that, you know, the Thais are lovely people. They're very welcoming. It's a great country. The culture's great. The food's great. Everything's great. But like everywhere else around the world, you get scammers. And unfortunately, young kind of backpacker types, people taking gap years, students, they tend to head to Khao Son Road, and that will attract the scammers. And you know, there's a lot of them hang around Khao Son Road because they're young people there mostly. They're a little bit naive. They're not stupid. They just haven't got worldly experience.
I didn't really get on with the crowd in Koh San Road. I mean, I went down there a couple of nights and it was so packed. I just couldn't get on with it. So after eating a scorpion and somebody offered me a grasshopper, I thought that's it, time to go. So I moved over to the Sukhumvit area, Bangkok near Asok. So I moved over there for one night.
Yeah, I got to admit, I was in Khao Son Road in December when I did my recent travels there, and it wasn't for me. It's very, very loud. A lot of young people there. You know, obviously I'm an old fogey now, so it's kind of like a bit loud for me. Let's talk a little bit about your trip. So, as I understand it, we were talking off camera, and you told me the reason you decided to start traveling was because your father died. Obviously, that was an upsetting experience, and you just wanted to clear your mind and get out of it, and you decided to go traveling. Which was the first country that you actually visited when you left the UK?
The first country I flew to was Budapest, Hungary. That's where I started the journey. I thought to myself, first things first, get out of Western Europe because it's so expensive. So I thought I'll start in beautiful Budapest, and then from there I got I stayed there for, I think it was about 3 or 4 nights I stayed there, and then I got the train down to Belgrade. But in the hostel, the night before I left in the hostel, I met this old fella who'd been busking his guitar in Belgrade. And he said, "Oh, don't go to Belgrade," he says. It's a horrible place. He said, "The police were always on my back." And I thought, come on, this can't be that bad. You know, you take in all these stories, but you don't believe half of them. So anyway, when I got on the train, about a 14-hour journey on a sleeper train, left beautiful Budapest, I pulled into Belgrade. This dilapidated station, barely a roof on it, and I got off, and there's like 3 armed police officers at the exit with like AK-47s. I thought, what's going on here then? Is there another war or something, or is there a royal procession or something going on outside? So anyway, I walked outside, and I just couldn't believe my eyes. There's every single building all around the semi-archway had bullet holes and bomb damage to it. And I thought, this has all happened from the Bosnian-Serbian War in the early 90s. So like 25 years later, they still hadn't rectified it. But these buildings were still operational, residential buildings and commercial buildings underneath. But they just kept the design.
I actually do know. I'm asking you which was your first country because anybody watching this video, the question is really for them, because I have read the book and I do know, but I have to ask those questions to let everybody else know. I believe you had an experience with a Chinese girl in a dormitory. Now, what I didn't know before I read your book, because I've never stayed in a hostel, I just assumed that there would be a male dormitory and a female dormitory. I didn't realize that they would mix, but apparently they do. And you were in a dormitory somewhere where it was just you, and there happened to be a Chinese girl staying in that dormitory. Just tell everybody what the story was with her, because you did tell me, but I found it quite interesting.
Well, yeah, she'd been there for a few weeks. She got robbed in Belgrade, and she was waiting for her parents or a family member to send her over some money from China for her to get back to China. But she didn't want to go back to China. She just basically wanted the money and carry on with her travels. So she was a bit down in the dumps. So I took her out for a drink. I thought I'd go out and see what the local pubs are like. And we went out for a drink down to this smoky old underground bar, which was okay. It's not my taste, not her taste really, but it was good to discover other sort of bars in Belgrade. And then we went up to this really modern bar where they were playing all sorts of music, and the three barmen were getting into the action. And we just had a whale of a time, singing all night, dancing all night. And then we went back to we were walking back to the hostel, sort of arm in arm, as you do, sort of thing. And then we just went to the hostel, and she was in the same dormitory as I was. There was only two of us there. The night porter was on reception, so he was out of the way. And she just slowly sort of danced around and took her clothes off and just basically just jumped into bed with me.
Oh, wow.
That was it.
So when this happened, did you continue to stay on at this dormitory? Did you become an item with her, or was it just a kind of quick fling one night?
No. It was just it was just a one night stand. Because the very next morning I went down to Belgrade. The day after that, I went down to Belgrade station to get the train to Istanbul.
So yeah, you left there, and I believe you from the book you headed to Turkey. And how was that? Any experiences, good experiences, bad experiences in Turkey?
Yes, it was right at the border, the Bulgarian-Turkish border. I got through passport control very easily, and I went out to the station to turn right to go to the coach, and this mean-looking dude called me over, customs officer, called me over and a few others, and we marched out the station down to this little long shed with blackened out windows. And he said to me, do you have any food, drugs or alcohol?
Reading the book, I remember when you went to Turkey, you had some experiences there. I remember reading something about when you arrived there was a little bit of a commotion or something happened. Why don't you tell everybody what happened when you got to Turkey?
Yeah, I was at the border because the train no longer went to Istanbul station because 3 months before that there was a terrorist attack in Istanbul. So the train just stopped at the border. And so I went through passport control and just going to get onto the coach to take me into the city. And this customs officer pulled me into this shed with all blackened out windows along with a few other people. And he asked me, he said, do you have any food, alcohol or drugs? No, I said, I don't carry anything like that. So he's pulled out everything from a rucksack, and then he's found my carrier bag with all my drugs in it, like paracetamol, ibuprofen, Sunatabs for my sinusitis,
Medication,
things like that.
Medication, basically.
And medication, yes. So but I didn't have them in the original boxes. I put them into these little clear plastic bags, and then wrote on them what they were. I just put them in. So he thought they were, what's all these white pills? So he's called all his mates in. They're standing there looking at me, gawping at me. And I had to explain to him what these drugs were. This is for my headaches, this is for cold, this is for sinusitis, this, that, and the other. Oh, right, okay. Didn't even bother to diagnose him or anything like that. It's just, right, pick all your gear up. So I pick all my gear up, go outside, reorganise it in the rucksack again. And then I stepped onto the coach and I suddenly had a thought. I thought, he asked me food, alcohol or drugs. No, but I've got a Mars bar in my pocket. He didn't bother searching me at all. He just searched the bag.
And so how long were you in Turkey for?
I was in Turkey in Istanbul for 4 days, but 3 of those days I was in bed with the flu. I just couldn't believe it. I got to Istanbul and I just came down with the flu. So my two good mates came to hand, day and night nurse. And so I stayed in Istanbul for another night and then got the bus towards the Georgian border, where we had to change buses at Trabzon. So Trabzon is like the northern-based town by the Black Sea. It's like 5 o'clock in the morning, and got off this bus to change on a little minibus, and this guy with a wobbly leg, like one leg shorter than the other, came bounding over. Are you going to Batumi? Batumi? I said, yes, I'm going to Batumi, yes. So he threw my rucksack in the back of the minibus, and we've headed off, picked up 2 other passengers along the way, and we stopped at this village where the road had just disappeared. There was no asphalt there at all. It was just dirt, slush from all the snow. And where he parked up to go to the bakery to get some pastries, I thought, is this normal? Huh? Yeah, he came back, gave us all pastries in the bus as well. He's got on the bus, put it into gear, slammed his foot on the accelerator, and the bus didn't go anywhere. It just moved sideways. It just wheels spinning round. So he's called 4 guys over from the bakery to come and push the minibus back onto the road again. Well, I know what's going to happen next. So the wheels are spinning. These guys are covered from head to toe in all this brown slush. And I thought it was hilarious when they walked past the window shouting obscenities at the driver. So then there was another guy who came round with a like a forklift. It was like forks on the front of a big truck, and he came out to the back, put the forks under the bus, lifted the bus up, and put us back onto the road again. And off we sped all the way to the Georgian border. And I thought to myself, this is the best £1.50 I've ever spent.
And where did you, which country did you go to after that?
Well, from Turkey, I went into Georgia. I was in Batumi for a few days. Then I met up with some local people there because I couldn't find a bar anywhere, because I was in the old part of Batumi, so I was making sure I was near the train station to get my next trip to wherever I was going next. And then according to this bar, and these old guys were talking to me about football and who I support in England and that. Oh, they're great Manchester United fans. So I left them at that. And in the evening, I was walking around looking for a restaurant or something to eat. So I thought, there's no restaurants or anywhere to eat. Everything was shut at 7 o'clock at night. And I looked up this little alleyway, and I see some lights on a private club. So I walked into this private club. I said, Can I eat? I said, yeah, come in. And the two guys I'd met earlier were sitting at the table, and they called me over to the table, joined them at the table. They said, get me a steak. You eat steak? Yeah, I eat steak. So they ploughed me with the steak, wine, vodka, all on the table, beers. And I was talking away, and the guy next to me started picking his phone up and dialing on his phone. I thought, who's he calling? And he kept looking at me in a strange way. I thought, he's a Georgian mafia or something, you know. So he put the phone down. He said, he said, everything okay now? Right, okay. Anyway, 5 minutes later, this 14-year-old kid or 12-year-old kid comes walking in, sits down opposite me. But it was this guy's son, because the kid learns English every day in school, so he could translate to his father what I was saying. And this kid was drinking beer. No word of a lie. 12-year-old, 14-year-old kid drinking beer, and I'm sloshed on vodka and wine, and he's sober as a judge. So I made some good friends, and I'm still in touch with these people as well through Facebook. I still keep in contact with them.
Yeah, I mean, that's the great thing about traveling. You meet all sorts of people, and it sounds like that night where you thought you weren't going to eat actually turned out to be a lot of fun. And as you said, Andrew, you ended up getting very drunk and eating steak. So I believe from reading the book from memory, you then traveled to Russia and you flew up to Moscow. And there was quite an interesting story about your train journey on the Siberian train. I read that with great interest. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that trip?
Yeah, 12 hours into the train trip, because it's a 7-day train trip from Moscow to Beijing straight through, and it stops at a station once a day. It could be for half an hour, it could be for 10 minutes or 2 hours. So we stopped at this small Kirov train station, and all these dogs on the platform scrounging for food. And after I bought some supplies from an old lady selling from a barra on the platform, started talking to these guys, and my mate who was on the train was leaning out the door at the other end, calling out, Andrew, get on the train. And they'd already told us that we're only here for like 10 minutes. And I thought, oh, damn, time's up. And as I've gone to the door, the guard is pulling up the steps. So I've got a 6-foot climb from this low platform to get up onto the train. And I clambered on. I couldn't get myself. And I'm hanging on for dear life, kicking my legs out to try and kick on. And then the steward has grabbed hold of the back of my coat and dragged me into the train. And literally 5 seconds after I got to my feet, the train left the station. So when the time's up, whether you're on the train or not, he's gone. That's it. All my worldly belongings were on the train. I had nothing.
What do you think would have happened? I mean, I know it's just guessing, but you're on the Siberian Railway, you're in the middle of nowhere, and you were lucky you just about jumped on that train. And like you quite rightly said, you had nothing on you, no phone, cash, anything like that. So if you had have missed that train, how do you think you would have got out of that situation?
Well, I've escaped from many things in my life. I would have found a way. I don't know how, but I would have spoken some broken Russian or broken English to a local or something and tried to figure out a way out of this situation.
So did you actually have cash on you when you were at this station? I presume you had your wallet.
No, I didn't have my wallet. My wallet was on the train. I had some loose cash on me. I think I had about 150 rubles. It was about that. I think it was that about £4, not even
Oh
£4.
wow.
That's
Wow.
all the cash I had on me.
Okay, so you're on the Siberian Railway. You made the train, and where was it? Where was the destination? Where did it stop?
It went all the way to Beijing in China went around the Lake Baikal near Siberia, and everything was frozen. It's like minus 30 degrees Celsius there. It's around Lake Baikal, down into Mongolia, through the Gobi Desert, where it's literally where it just come from trees and mountains. It's like Gobi Desert. There's nothing. It's just barren landscape, nothing at all.
Tell us, yeah, Andy. Andrew. Tell us a story about your frozen jeans when you arrived at the station. That was quite comical.
Yeah, I arrived at Ulaanbaatar station. It was minus 55 degrees Celsius. I had all the right gear on. I had thermal underwear on, a thermal shirt on, 2 t-shirts, 2 fleeces, and a big Canadian jacket, a coat, winter coat. But I had jeans on as well. And I stepped off the train. People told me don't wear jeans. I stepped off the train, and literally within seconds, I could hear all this crackling. It was on my jeans. The ice was. You could see the ice building up on your jeans. I thought after 2 minutes, I had to get back onto the train again. I just couldn't. I took my jeans off and changed onto a pair of cargo trousers, hung the jeans up, and they went as stiff as a board.
How do people deal with that kind of coldness? Not minus 55. I mean, I've never experienced it myself.
Well, we spoke to some hardy Mongolians who got onto the train, and they're just well used to it. They live in all these yurts, which are like tent constructions within the city, and they've just got these fur coats, and they're just used to the cold weather. Because don't forget, I think Ulaanbaatar is the coldest capital city in the entire world.
Really? I suppose it's down to climatization, isn't it? It's like when you go to Thailand the first time and you walk out of the airport and that heat just hits you. It's unbearable, actually. But when you've lived in Thailand for a number of years, you do kind of get used to it. You do climatize. And I suppose it's the same for them. It's cold. You know, you've never been there. So instead of the heat hitting you, the cold hits you. But for those people who are born there and grew up there and live there permanently, I suppose, like you say, they get used to it.
Yeah, of course, you acclimatise for everything. So when I went from cold weather, China, all the way down to Bangkok, it was like 42 degrees in Bangkok. I went from like minus 20 to 42 degrees in a matter of days, and it was like a body shock to you.
So when you were in China, how long did you stay there for?
I was in China. I was in Beijing for about 2 weeks. And then I got the bullet train down to Hong Kong, and then back up to Guangzhou, over to Nanning on the southwest side of China, before I headed off to Hanoi in Vietnam.
One of the stories I found quite amusing when I read the book was a story about you leaving your passport on the counter. Why don't you tell everybody about that? And I won't give it away, but you'd left your passport or your wallet, as I remember, and you were panicking in Beijing.
Yeah, that was in Nanning railway station when I was waiting for the train for Hanoi, and I went to the ticket office, bought my ticket, trying to translate to the lady. I want to go to Hanoi, and on the ticket it said Gia Lam. I thought, I've never heard of Gia Lam, and after back and forth with the customer assistant, I tap on the shoulder, and the guy behind me, who spoke a bit of English, said to me, Gia Lam, that is the Chinese word for Hanoi. So you are going to Hanoi. Oh, right. So after that, I went to a couple of shops and got a coffee and some food. Went to the waiting area and sat down. I realised something was missing. My leather man bag, which had all my identification, my wallet, phone chargers, power bank, passport, a lot in there, and $2,000 in cash. It was missing. I just flipped out. I thought, I know nobody's nicked it off me, so I must have left it somewhere. So I went back to all the shops I went to, hunting around for it. It was a nightmare, and I was almost in tears. And I thought the last port of call I could think of was, well, let's go back to the ticket hall. Has anyone handed it in or anything? I went back to the ticket hall, and then the queues have got bigger and bigger. I thought, there's no way it's going to be here. If somebody's had that bag away, they've made it rich with them just for the cash in there alone. And I just noticed on the floor in front of the window where I was standing was my bag sitting on the floor. So I was talking to the lady, and I was put the bag on the floor and just walked off and forgot about it. Oh, what a sigh of relief that was. But everything was in there. I didn't lose anything. That was,
well, they say
so close. That was.
They say good luck comes in three times. So you caught the train on the Siberian Railway, you just made it, you found your bag, so I'm sure there's going to be a third bit of luck in the story. So, okay, so you left there, and where was your next destination?
Next destination was Hanoi, Vietnam. So I spent a lovely 2 weeks in Hanoi. If I could retire, I'd probably retire in Hanoi. So I just totally different from anywhere else.
Yeah, I've never been to Vietnam, so why don't you tell us a little bit about the difference? How does, say, a city like Hanoi, how does it differ to somewhere like Bangkok? What are the differences?
Oh, it's a massive difference, because Vietnam is still like a primitive people, a primitive era. They started putting buildings up there, but they wanted to keep their original sense, if you like, the original structures. And they're just so far behind on technology and everything in way of life, really. And I just thoroughly enjoyed it. Crooked buildings everywhere, train running through the middle of the street. Yeah, the streets are dedicated to different trades. Like you have a silver trade, you have a cotton trade, a fish trade, a hat trade, a street selling hats, and you've got a dog street. There's actually a dog street where every restaurant in that street actually sells dog food, dog meat on the menu in restaurants. And you probably know yourself, being in Thailand and Asia, that a lot of Asian people do actually eat dog meat.
I've never come across it myself, and I'm not sure I'd like to eat dog meat, because I'm a dog lover. I have a dog. I've always had dogs all my life. I just can't imagine. Did you actually try dog meat yourself when you were there?
No chance. I'm a dog lover myself, just like you. I couldn't eat a dog, no, or any sort of cuddly pet, really, you know.
So I realise, obviously, it's two different countries. They speak two different languages. But what are the similarities? Are they kind of quite warm, welcoming people like they are in Thailand, or is it a similar culture, or are there great differences between the Thais and the Vietnamese?
Yeah, they are very friendly people, Vietnamese, which I found. I didn't have any qualms with them. Everyone said hello. Everyone was very friendly. But I've heard as well that the north and the south are two different cultures. What it was like down in Ho Chi Minh City, I don't know, because I didn't go to Ho Chi Minh City. But I found the north of Vietnam very, very friendly indeed.
Right, so you had a great 2 weeks in Hanoi in Vietnam, by the sounds of it. Like I say, I haven't been there. I must try and get over there sometime. And I believe you headed over to you went to Thailand from Vietnam. Is that right?
Yes, that's right. I went to Bangkok and stayed in Bangkok for a few days. And whilst I was in a normal pub in Soy Cowboy, actually, and I met a fellow YouTuber.
Anyone I know?
Yes, a guy called Jeremy. He's got a channel called Do More Life, an American guy.
Yeah, I know Jeremy. He's I was subscribed to his channel for a long time. I liked his channel. How did you get along with Jeremy?
Oh, I found him quite a friendly guy, very knowledgeable. He'd been living in Thailand for a number of years, and he suggested I should go to Pattaya. I've never heard of Pattaya before. He said, "Oh, you'd love it down there."
And how long did you stay in Bangkok before you headed down to Pattaya?
The next day.
Really? And was it because Jeremy said to you go to Pattaya? Is that the reason why you went the next day, or were you just staying one night in Bangkok anyway?
No. It was because Jeremy suggested it, because originally I was going to head off down to Malaysia, down the other way. They said, "Well, go to Pattaya." So I thought, well, it's in the opposite direction, but yeah, let's go and have a look at Pattaya.
And how long were you in Pattaya for?
Well, I was originally going to stay for a few weeks, but unforeseen circumstances led me to only stay for 1 week before I headed off to Australia.
So why don't you tell us some of the highlights, things, anything quirky kind of happened to you while you were in Pattaya?
Well, yes. The first thing I noticed when I booked into the hotel, the guest house in Pattaya off Soy Linky, the lady said to me, who showed me the room, she said, it's guest friendly. I said, what do you mean it's guest friendly? She said, oh, you can bring a lady back. I said, well, yeah, as if I'm going to get a lady to come back to my hotel. Yeah, all right.
You really didn't know what Pattaya was about and the scene
No,
down there. So when she said to you it's guest friendly, you honestly didn't realize what she meant by that.
no, I didn't have a clue what she was on about. When she explained to me, you can bring a lady back here. Oh, okay then. So I headed off. I went to a bar off of Soy Bacau, and like 2 hours later, I had a lady in my room.
As you do, as you do. Okay, well, I think we'll end that bit there. And then anything else interesting in Pattaya? People who will relate to it because most people I know have been to
Yes,
Pattaya.
there was one thing. There was one thing you're probably familiar with: the ATM scams.
Yeah.
I'd drawn some money out of an ATM rather than going back to the hotel to get the dollars, and didn't think anything of it. It's one of these ATMs that are standalone ones that are in Soy Diana. And anyway, a couple of days later, I checked my bank account as I normally do, online bank account, just to see how my budgeting was going.
Online.
And I think all this money was going, like 200, 300, up to over £1,500 had disappeared from my bank account in 2 days. Yeah, well, I did get back to the bottom of it because after putting money on my phone to phone my bank in England, it was discovered I hadn't used my card at all until I realised it was that ATM machine. As I'm talking on the phone, another £200 has come out of my account. So he immediately put a stop to any foreign exchanges on my account and asked me to transfer some money from one account to the other so I can still have access to some money, and he'll close that account immediately and send me a new card.
When I read that in the book, I could feel your pain because I remember reading you'd had this money disappeared from your account and you were online and that, you were on hold to the bank, and you know what it's like calling banks in the UK. It's, your call is important to us. It's so important. We're keeping you waiting for an hour. But as you were holding on this phone call to the bank, you kept refreshing the page and another couple of £100 was disappearing from your account. And but eventually you did get through to them. As you say, they put a block in it.
Yeah, I put a block on it, and I can laugh about it now because I wasn't laughing at the time. It wasn't until a few months later when I got a new card, when I went back to England a few months later for a short time.
Did you actually lose the money, or did the bank give you it back?
No, the money, the bank gave me the money back about a month or so later once the fraud department had done their investigation.
Yeah. I was burnt once a long time ago. I never use cards in Thailand now. It's all cash. Cash is king, as they say. But I can give you a tip, Andrew. I don't know if you know about this, but anybody who's gone out to Thailand, if you have to use those ATMs, always use one that's attached to a bank, because the ones that have false fronts on them, cameras, they're generally standalone ATM machines. So if you only use the ones that are attached to a bank, and there's plenty of them about in Pattaya, you should be okay.
Yeah, that's what I found. That's the advice I got from a couple of friends of mine I met in Pattaya. They said always go to the Bangkok bank or one of the other main branches of a bank when there's an ATM actually attached to their wall.
So I know that when you left Pattaya, or Pattaya, as some people like to call it, you then headed over to Australia. Which city did you head to first when you went out to Australia?
I only got as far as Perth. Then I discovered the cost of the country, and that was it. I thought, no, I'm not staying here.
You didn't visit Japan then?
No, I haven't been to Japan. No, I know that's expensive as well.
Yeah, that's why I mentioned it, because it's very, very expensive. How long were you actually planning in staying in Australia, and how long did you actually stay, and what made you decide to leave in the end? Was it your vacation holiday just come to the end, or did something else happen?
Oh no, I initially went to Australia to find some work because of the money disappearing out my account. I thought I need to find some work, and my experience is working on yachts, big super yachts. Got many years' experience of it. So I went to Perth and Fremantle, and because I noticed there was 3 yachting marinas there, and I couldn't believe that. Like all 3 yachting rooms were security gated off. You couldn't even get on there. And the hostel told me I must have a visa, a working visa, which I didn't have.
Did you not know about the visa before you headed out there looking for the work, or?
Well, yes. Well, I did. I did know, yes, but I was trying on the slide see if I could get some black work, which I've successfully got for many years before.
Right.
Not realising how very strict Australian rules are.
And how long were you actually in Australia?
2 weeks.
2 weeks, okay. And then did you fly directly from Australia back to the UK? Was it a direct flight then?
No. I got a direct flight. I got a flight from Perth to Athens in Greece, and I stayed in Athens for about 3 weeks, I think.
So when you were in Athens, you were saying that you managed to get some work. May I ask you what the work was?
Yeah, it was varnishing a big sailboat in the marina. Varnishing the cap and rails, the dog houses.
Okay, because you have a background in yachting, that makes sense. And then what made you decide to head back to the UK? If you were working in Athens, you were obviously making some money. What was the decision to come back to? What made you want to come back to the UK after the 3 weeks?
Well, because the yacht I was working on was going on a cruise around the Greek islands for the summer, so there was not much work left over. So I thought, well, I'll go back to England and see what happens in England, try and get better work for 6 months, and then head back out to Thailand.
Yeah. Okay, so look, we'll wrap this up soon, but just a couple of more questions. So when did all this take? I can't remember from the book. Well, how long ago did all this take place? When did you actually arrive?
2017, and then after all this trip, I headed back to the UK. Well, when the pandemic started in January 2020.
Because I know you're working at the moment. We had an off-camera discussion, so I know you're working. Any plans to travel again?
Oh yeah, absolutely. As soon as all the restrictions are relaxed, we're probably looking at July, August, and I should be heading off then. Been stuck in England for 2.5 years. I need to get moving again.
I've recently been to Thailand. I went in December. If I didn't have a channel called Thailand Bound, I probably wouldn't have bothered. But I just felt I had to get out there, and I had to jump through a lot of hoops with the Thailand pass. I had to do the quarantine. I caught COVID while I was in Thailand, so I had to self-isolate for a week. I ended up staying there for 5 weeks rather than the 3 I'd originally stayed out for. But I had a good time. And now they're talking about maybe dropping the Thailand pass on the 1st of June, which would be fantastic. But you never know. It's something today and something different tomorrow. Will you be heading out to Thailand, or will it be another world tour?
Well, yeah, that's what I was thinking. I was going to head off to Thailand, base myself in Pattaya or John TM, and then go traveling all around Asia, Vietnam, Cambodia, Philippines, Malaysia, Indonesia, but always have a base in Thailand, so I can always come back maybe a couple of months rather than flying all the way back to England.
But there isn't anywhere really for me that is as good as Thailand. I think Thailand's got everything, the infrastructure, the friendliness, and obviously it appealed to you as well, Andrew, because you're heading back there. Yeah,
absolutely. That's why I love Thailand. It's so friendly. No one's got a bad word to say about you. Well, as long as you behave yourself, that is.
Exactly.
And then, but you've got other different cultures nearby: Cambodia, Vietnam, Indonesia. But there's nothing quite like Thailand, though. It's just so friendly.
Right. So before you go, 2 last questions I'd like to ask you. So you've travelled all around the world. It was a great. We'll show people the book. We'll plug the book a little bit in a minute. As I say, I'm not on any backhanders or anything, but it was a great read. If you're one of those people who like, the books that you get in the airport when you leave Bangkok, Damage Done, and My Name Is Lom, You Like Me, and all those kind of Private Dancer. That's another one. Those sort of books, you'll enjoy Andrew's book. It's very interesting. It's not strictly Thailand focused. It's all about his trip around the world. But I read it. It was a very good read. And I do recommend getting the book, which we'll tell you a little bit about in a minute. But before we do that, so the trip, Andrew, the whole trip from start to finish, how long did it last?
3 years.
Wow, 3 years. Okay, 3 years. Yeah. And if I said to you, what was there anything, one thing we'll do a good and a bad, but if there's one thing that sticks out in your mind, what was the worst experience you had on that trip of 3 years? Is there anything that stands out?
The worst experience on that trip was probably almost missing the train in Kirov in Russia.
Really?
In minus 30 degrees Celsius.
So I suppose looking back on it, when you actually you did catch the train, you didn't miss it, and you probably didn't think much about it at the time. But later on down the line, as they say, I'm sure you kind of had a little panic attack thing when you had time to think about it and thought, wow, if I had missed that train.
Well, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. You don't think of the consequences when you're going onto these journeys. You just go with the flow. But when things like that happen and you think to yourself how close you were to sort of survival or not survival with nothing in the middle of Russian winter, and you think to yourself, how did I get away with that? But you just do. You just did. And now I look back on it and I just laugh at it now.
So let's talk about the positive side now. So if you had to pick just one thing out of the 3 years, I'm sure you had a lot of positive experiences, else you wouldn't have been away for 3 years. But if there's one thing that stood out in your mind, if you had to pick one thing that defines a whole trip, remembers, great memory, what would that be?
Probably discovering Pattaya.
Really? Okay.
I never knew this place existed.
Short but sweet. Okay. All right. Andrew, look, it's been a pleasure having you here today. Let's talk a little bit about your book. There it is there. It's called Get Me Out of Here, and it's written by Andrew Hammond. And Andrew, why don't you just tell everybody where can they get this book at the moment? Is it just in hard copy, or do you have a Kindle version? Or if somebody wants to read the book, where would they go to get this book?
Yeah, if you go onto Amazon, type in the title of the book and the author name, Andrew Hammond. It's all on Amazon. It's on Kindle. It's on paperback. And I'm also looking at maybe doing an audio book sometime down the road as well.
Because you have got this is a second book, because you did have a book before this.
Which is this one here called Never Look Back.
Okay.
It's about my story, my earlier life in the yachting industry, and sort of evolved into the Get Me Out of Here book.
So any plans for books in the future, or would we have to wait and see how the trips go?
Well, I do love writing, and I do have a project in mind to do. It's going to be this one to be a fictional story, but it's based on a true story. So and it's a right good comedy. So you'll have to wait for that one.
Right, without giving too much away, now on a Saturday I release stories. Guys send me in stories, I edit them, rewrite them, so they flow better from me. And I believe one of the stories I read out, without giving too much away, I believe you sent me a story, didn't you?
Yes, I did. Yeah, I did.
And I was going to say, how do I know that? Because when I was reading your book, I read that bit of the story and I thought, hang on a minute, this is familiar. And I went back and looked at one of those stories, and yeah, because I normally don't get to meet or discover who the people are who send in these stories. But yeah, I found you out on that one, Andrew. But never mind. So just to end, when are you said you're planning to head out in July? You're going to go to Pattaya, and how long do you think you'll be staying in Southeast Asia for the next time you go out there?
As long as possible. I would say a minimum of 6 months. Minimum of 6 months.
That is a long time. That is a long time. Okay, Andrew, great. I enjoyed reading your book. And just once again, if anybody coming late, it's Get Me Out of Here by Andrew Hammond. Very interesting book. And as I say, it's one of those books that I'm sure will end up in the airport at Bangkok, that you'll flick through the back of it and you'll think this looks interesting, and you'll end up buying it. I certainly enjoyed reading it. But I don't know how much it cost, Andrew, because you very kindly sent me a copy several months ago. What's it on retail for?
Paperback is $7.99 and the Kindle version is $3.99.
Right. Okay. Well, good luck with that, Andrew. I hope you have every success with your book sales. I know you've sold quite a lot already. Hopefully you'll sell a lot more. So all that's left to say, Andrew, thank you very much for coming on this video today and letting me interview you. It's been very, very interesting. Hopefully maybe we'll meet up in Pattaya one day, who knows, and share a beer and some more interesting stories.
Absolutely, Peter. Absolutely. Thanks for having me as well. I look forward to seeing you in the future, maybe.
Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome. And we'll have that beer for sure. All right, Andrew, thanks a lot. And you take care now. What a nice guy. That's Andrew Hammond, the author of the book, Get Me Out of Here. Now, I know when you watch interviews where people are talking about books, the person doing the interview, taking the interview, they always say, I recommend getting this book. But actually, guys, honestly, I'm not just saying this. Andrew sent me the book months and months ago, and I thought I'll read a few pages and I'll get back to it. And I started flicking through it on a Sunday morning. It was a quiet, nothing much to do, one of those rainy days in the UK. And honestly, I got 3/4 of the way through the book. I couldn't put it down. It is very, very interesting. So although people interview guys who have written books and they say, I recommend you getting this book, I really do, Guy. I couldn't put it down. It's a very interesting book, and I'm sure you're going to enjoy it. So thanks to Andrew for coming on and doing that interview. I'll try and get some more interesting interviews in the future. Until then, guys, hopefully you'll join me in the live stream on Friday. That's 9 p.m. UK time. And of course, stories every Saturday morning. Thanks a lot, guys, and I'll catch up with you all soon.